is episode 322 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me is my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
What is up, Brandon? Today we get to dissect press conferences, which will be kind of fun, I think. I'm actually looking forward to this. This is my attempt to start out with the first off-season podcast and not be grumpy off-season podcast, Adam. And have a little better attitude.
You're gonna break your streak? Is this or this is you getting one out of the way just to know that you can do it, and then we'll be back to normal grumpy off-season podcast, Adam?
Look, I'm not going to make any promises, but I'm hoping to have a streak here and try to be a little better on that front, because I know I get a little grumpy as the off seasons wear on.
I'll try and help you too, because I think that maybe as we're evaluating ourselves, much like Pete Carroll is evaluating the team, and that's what we're going to get into today, I could be better at setting you up for success, because a lot of times I talk about just how exciting things are to talk about in the off season, and maybe that's not helpful for you. As a coach, if I'm coaching myself and self-scouting, I probably don't need to get so excited in the off season about the stuff that I do.
Right. So basically what you're saying is that you're just too excitable about stuff that doesn't matter.
Right. And that's not helpful to you, because you're like, why are you being so excited? You shouldn't be excited about these things. And then it makes you grumpy.
It makes me sound grumpy for sure. You're right. This is all your fault. I'm glad we got to the bottom of this. I would fire you like we fired Schotty, but honestly don't think it would be better for our deal if I did that. So
it would make it a significantly bigger job for you to get the show out every week.
Yeah, well, that's one way to look at it. The other way would be that it just wouldn't go out. So it might be lesser of a job.
That's true. Okay, so the big news, Brian Schottenheimer let go as the Seahawks offensive coordinator. There's other news too, but really this was the big thing from last week that when I think back to the things that we talked about on the last show, I think you can see this coming.
Yeah, shots fired for sure, man. I mean, Pete, not catfishing around. He decided, to be swift about this. And this is a little unusual, I think. The fact that this happened right now, this quickly, that was something that didn't seem like their regular MO. And yeah, after listening to Pete's end of year press conference, and this was before the decision had been announced, there were definitely little things that they were shots fired at Schotty, like for sure.
And we are going to get into that. And you can probably pick out those little micro moments where there is criticism of the offense. Let's get through some of the other news, though, before we get there. The other big news, John Schneider extended as general manager through 2027. Wow.
So that must be really fun for the Detroit Lions. They're enjoying their extension, right? They extended him. They signed him and they extended him to 2027.
Well, the Seahawks signed him.
And he's extended with us?
Yeah.
That's not what I was told. I was told he was going to Detroit. That makes no sense. You mean John Schneider?
It could still happen.
Yeah, okay. You mean John Schneider decided to stay with a winning organization instead of going to a turd of an organization? That happened?
Apparently.
Who could have seen that coming?
I mean, maybe two of us that are on the show that have been podcasting and talking about the Seahawks since 2013.
Yeah. I would say basically anybody who would call themselves a 12 saw that coming. It's not like we're Miss Cleo up here.
In other front office news, the Seahawks vice president of football operations, Scott Fitterer, he interviewed with the Panthers and got the GM job there.
All right. So who on the Carolina roster are you interested in? Because John's going to be poaching from Fitterer now. Like, that's happening.
Yeah, we've got a connection now.
There we go.
Organization.
See? Yeah.
You bring this up and you expect me to just rattle off players on the Carolina Panthers who are, coming toward the end of their contract. I have done no legwork on this. You're hitting me cold on this.
Okay. I figured you'd say at least McCaffrey. You'd be interested in him.
That's not going to happen.
You don't know. Maybe Fitterer's a mole. Maybe he's a plant. Maybe he is doing the NFL equivalent as McHale did when he went to Minnesota and traded KG to the Celtics for basically a loaf of bread and at $5 and a bag of basketballs.
It's possible. I think there's some contract issues and some salary cap concerns that might come along with McCaffrey coming to Seattle. Just maybe.
The salary cap's magic. Don't forget.
And I guess the only other little piece of news here, Jamal Adams to have surgery to repair a torn labrum from the 49ers game, and also surgery on his 2 broken fingers.
Yeah, lots of surgeries for Jamal. And I think doubly emphasizes the gutsy effort that he gave us in the playoffs there. Pay that man.
They need to pay Jamal. We'll probably be getting into other players that they need to pay. I know there's people out there that probably want us to get to this, like all this offseason content right away. Who are they going to pay? Who are they going to kick to the curb? You know, we've got weeks to kind of unpack that and diagnose things and, you know, remind you that the salary cap is magic in the coming weeks. So, and we can't just do it all at once.
Well, I mean, I could sum it up real quick. Pay everybody except for Dunbar because his supposed market value is a little steep.
17.6 million, according to Spot Track. That's not high at all.
Yeah, I seriously, I still question. Like I said on Facebook, does his agent work at Spot Track?
Something happened. Somebody hacked into the Spot Track system. Somebody's going to be going in there, some staff assistant for some team, and they're going to go, oh, maybe we should look at this Quentin Dunbar guy. He's the projected top cornerback at $17.6 million for his market rate. You know, I think we ought to talk to that guy.
Right. Well, they can give him a phone call, please.
While we're talking about phone calls.
No,
not going to go there.
No, we have to go there. It makes me sick to my stomach even thinking about the words that are about to come out of your mouth.
The Seahawks talked to Doug Peterson on the phone.
Yeah. Hooray.
And Adam Gase.
I mean, just no. Catfish. No, forever no. Absolutely not. No on Adam Gase.
I saw a lot of excited 49ers fans, a lot of excited Rams fans when they saw the news of Adam Gase having had discussions with the Seahawks about the offensive coordinator job. And that's when you know that it's the wrong move.
Maybe they gave him a call or he gave them a call.
This is why you have call screeners. I don't even know where you're going to go with this. You have people on the phones that say, may I ask who's calling? And when they say Adam Gase, they look down at their list and say, people we do not take calls from. And Adam Gase is on that list.
Adam Gase is on the line. Unless you're a reverse psychology genius like we know John Schneider is. And he just wanted to get Adam Gase on the phone so he knew, so he could kind of interview him and hear what Adam Gase had to say. So he knew what to not look for in an offensive coordinator going forward.
Has there been
a guy with the creepier stare that's ever coached?
No. Well, I think you can answer no to that too. But has there been a person who's ridden farther on the coattails of Peyton Manning than anybody else in the NFL?
And this isn't even a shot, and I think he'd laugh at it. Maybe Pat McAfee. he's got a long ways on Peyton Manning stories. You know what I mean?
He has talent, though. He has shown that he is a talented broadcaster.
Like I said, that's not a shot. I mean, use what you got, no doubt about it. But if I'm going to see who got the most mileage out of that, it's pretty close.
Yeah. Well, one of those two actually deserves their success. So there we go.
Yeah, and his name doesn't rhyme with mine.
All right, moving on to our meat of the episode as we're going to go through this Pete Carroll press conference. I think we can get some important clues. And so I went through and I kind of clipped out some of the things that I know are going to be discussion points through the offseason, things that Pete Carroll, he usually gives us some clues about where the team's going to go and issues that he had in particular. And so I think this can be kind of an instructive thing to go through this and hear what Pete had to say.
Okay. And so we can kind of interweave the Schotty parting of ways if we're going to use the really nice friendly language that they use for this. Going through Pete Carroll's press conference, we can kind of interweave that in and have that discussion.
Yeah. They had philosophical differences, Adam. Obviously.
Yeah. They sound like they've got two very polished divorce lawyers, like spinning the yarn of what's going on with their relationship, or now lack thereof.
Let's start off with one part of this that I don't think there's going to be that lengthy of a discussion, because there weren't that many questions about it in the press conference. It was the Seahawks defense. And I thought this was the one big question. So kudos to the reporter that asked it, especially in this way. And that is, did the Seahawks defense get better, or did they just start playing bad offenses down the stretch?
Yeah, the offenses weren't all real dynamic at the end. They were, hurt. They were hurting too. This season was all about injuries, and as you go through it, maybe more than ever. And teams didn't have all their guys, and so we tried to take advantage of that as best we could, and I thought we did. You can only play the team that's out there. And the teams that we played really well against. Our scheme improved immensely during the course of the season. It did. We got better. We got more accountable, more consistent. We knocked down the explosive plays. We played the running game really well. I mean, it was so many things. We rushed the passer. Like, you guys never would have thought we'd rush the passer like this. You never thought this was going to happen. Not one of you, except for Jen. Jen was talking about, she could see it coming. But all the rest of you guys could not ever have imagined that we could rush the passer, and I don't know where we wound up, but we had like 3 sacks at least, and a bunch of pressures all the way through the last 7 or 8 games of the season, and it was just, we were on fire with it. Well, that's we got better. You can't that just doesn't just happen. That wasn't luck. Guys tied together. They played together. Kenny called it right. He used his guys properly, and the coverage guys did a marvelous job. Really, DJ had a fantastic addition when he came in and played great for us at right corner, and all of those factors did come to life. We watched the team struggle to find their offenses against us. They knew what we were doing. We weren't trying to fool them as much as just trying to outplay them, and we watched them try to struggle to find their game. The Rams didn't throw the ball very well, and nobody threw the ball very well at us, throughout the second half of the season, and that had to do with the rush. But it had to do with the guys on the back end too. So we made a big improvement.
Pete Carroll referencing Jen Mueller there, one of the Seahawks reporters. And she knew what to expect from the defense, but no, none of the other guys.
It's funny because you gave this reporter kudos for asking that question. I think he asked that question after they had asked him about the offense for like the 15th time.
Right.
And Pete was definitely a little annoyed by that. And he's like, all right, that'll be the last question, unless one of you guys have something different to ask me. Because I'm just saying the same crap over and over again.
That was the hardest thing to go through and clip this, because everybody was asking about the offense, and they were asking it in so many different ways that it kind of all led to the same kind of answer. It led Pete to talking about it in a couple different ways, but it was hard to really dial in on the one clip that you could point to that kind of encompassed Pete Carroll's issues with the offense. And so I'll get to that, but did you have any more comments about the defense?
Oh, right. Yeah, we should probably talk about that since nobody else did during this. I think that I actually am buying what Pete's selling here when it comes to the defense. It did seem like there was actual improvement there. It doesn't feel like it's totally fool's gold. Is it as good as it looked down the stretch, in terms of going forward, this defense? I'm not 100% sure of that. But it's certainly better than the first 6, 7, 8 weeks of defense that we saw.
Yeah, it was on pace to be not historically for one season, but historically the worst in the NFL ever in terms of passing yards allowed. Right.
And they did. They turned it around. They found the pass rush. Having Jamal Adams in there and cutting him loose, and really the emergence of Jordan Brooks over the season, and just all these guys, DJ Reed being a big find throughout the season, and figuring out where everybody fit, and then also getting everybody comfortable in their roles. I think it was a huge deal. And I do think that the improvement that we witnessed was real. It was not just a function of playing some poor offenses going down the stretch.
Poor offenses, or how did Pete put it? The offenses were not very dynamic.
Not very dynamic, correct. Yeah.
And so I did mention that it was kind of hard to find that one clip that explained the problem with the offense. And it's probably something that we're going to be talking about throughout the offseason, because, you can point to, what are the things that Pete Carroll said? What are the things that Russell Wilson did? What are the adjustments they could have made? What is it that Brian Schottenheimer did that really impacted or had the potential to impact the team in the second half of the season? So And a lot of those things you're just not going to have answers for. But I think what it came down to was the inability of the offense to find balance. And so I think this clip explains, for me, what was the issue with the offense in the second half of the season.
We know the potential that we have in exploding and getting the ball down the field with our guys and all that. And we just wanted to keep thinking we could get back to it, because it's such a big part of our attack. Russ is so good at throwing the ball down the field. And so I feel like we lingered in that, the kind of the glow of the first half of the season, as we needed to adjust a little bit. We didn't do it well enough. We didn't do it fast enough. We have to, make sure that you don't get stuck. You can get stuck in running the football too much. You can get stuck on throwing the football. You can get stuck on how you throw the football and all that. And so we just have to be more flexible. It's why balance is so important, so that you have what you need when it's time to go to it. I think we weighted ourselves out of balance early in the year. It was so attractive throwing the football because Russ was 75%, and we're rolling and we're scoring, tons of points. And it was fun. We liked it. We got lured into it a little bit. Running backs went down. Remember that when that happened? And then we got out of kilter a little bit. And then coming out of that, we never got as balanced as we needed to be.
And so the reason why I was saying, I think this clip encompasses it. I think they got into that mode of passing the ball more on early downs, which is, part of what people were saying is part of let Russ cook. You need to throw the ball more on first and second down when you get favorable alignments to throw the ball, because more people are expecting run on those early downs. And so they kind of got into that rhythm as an offense, and then they never got out of it. And so when you got toward the second half of the season, you were seeing a lot of those same type of looks where they were expecting those to be there. And it kind of fed into that idea of Russell Wilson looking downfield when he should have been more focused on moving the ball more efficiently. And so that's why I think that soundbite kind of encompasses where they were through the second half of the season.
Yeah, I think you did an excellent job choosing that little bit right there, because it does kind of encompass what he's trying to say. Because the reason why the question kept getting asked to him 1,000 times about the offense was it wasn't what wasn't working. It was why wasn't it working, right? And Pete was dancing all around that because he doesn't want to give up the why, so that everybody in the league knows why their offense was broken, right? So he kind of kept going back to the what in the problem there. And so basically the way that I take what he said here and what he was saying earlier when he said we need to run the ball more is just like you said, early in the season, you start throwing more on early downs and it's working. And then the league adapts and they start playing two high safeties and doing all that stuff to really take away the downfield explosive passing game. Well, at that point, then you need to be able to run the ball to dictate to the defense that they need to change to open things back up for that. So they started out with just throwing the ball on early downs throughout the first part of the season and never got the run game kind of going and get the offense with a flow of how to do that. And so when it came time that they needed to do it, they couldn't do it. They couldn't find it. They didn't have the cohesiveness offensively in the run game for one reason or another. And that's when he said too, somewhere in there, he said something along the lines of, you need to be able to get to other stuff when it's needed, right? It was something along those lines. And what he means by that is when they go too high safety, we need to be able to run the ball to bust them back out of that. So then we can take shots with DK and Tyler down the field. That's what we need to have, that counter punch.
Right.
So when he's saying, I want to run the ball more, it's not, we're just going to run the ball for the sake of running the ball. What he's saying is, when the situation dictates it's time to run the ball, we need to run the ball. And we didn't do that this year. And the little bit that we tried to do it, it didn't work. And then we got behind the sticks. And now you're the worst team, or the team in the league that has the most 3rd and 11 plus in all the league, right? Mm-hmm. Because you were crap on the first 2 downs. Because you couldn't really run the ball to change what the defense was doing. So then you tried throwing the ball. Well, if they're playing for the pass and they're playing coverage, it's going to be really hard, and it's going to lead to more sacks. It's going to lead to more interceptions. It's just a problem. And it put him behind the and put them behind the 8 ball all the second half of the year.
Well, especially if your quarterback doesn't adjust to how to move the ball down the field efficiently, if you continue to look for those deep shots. So I think that leads us into Pete Carroll's evaluation of Russell Wilson.
Gosh, he was just smoking early, with all of we were just on fire. We scored all those points early in the season. They really couldn't slow us down. And there was almost lost that it was just so consistently good. And then as we got down the stretch, it got hard, and the games got hard. We tightened down some to make sure that we kept the games in control, knowing who we were playing against, the style of teams that we were playing. You play the Rams twice, Washington, the Niners, all those teams have, the Giants all have great defenses, and the challenges. They all played very similar style of play. And so that you saw our style of play really got minimized some, that we can't let happen. I will share this with you, that we have to run the ball better, and not even better. We have to run it more. And that's we have to dictate what's going on with the people that we're playing. And that's one of the ways to do that. And I know the fans aren't real jacked about hearing that, but Russ knows it too. We need to be able to knock those guys into the scheme that we want to throw at. And, which was happening more earlier in the season. And so we took full advantage of it.
Oh no, we have to run the ball more. Adam, it's so scary. It's Pete talking about going back to 2018 and running the ball 70% of the time.
No, he's talking about going back to 1933 and running the wishbone every play. Like, we're going to become the most archaic team in all of football. Who runs the ball more to say, take the defense out of a look that you don't like so that you can put up a bunch of points late in a game. It's almost like I just watched that game this last Sunday. Oh, wait, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just did against the Saints. They were playing 2 deep safety the whole freaking game, and they were limiting where Tom could go with the football. So they stayed patient. They ran the damn ball. They took the checkdowns. And then later in the game, when they had to gamble to try to stop the run, then you saw Brady get his shots. It's almost like that's how you play football, to win.
You saw it even in the Green Bay Packers game against the Rams. They ran a balanced attack. They were pounding the ball with the run a little bit. And then toward the end of the game and ran play action, the safeties bit, and it opened it up for the deep pass down the field. And they got their 55-yard touchdown.
Yeah. And honestly, the Saints, they were in the Saints-Buccaneers game, when they were flip-flopped, when Saints were on offense and Bucs were on defense, it was the same exact thing going on. The only difference is that when the safety started lurking down a little bit deeper into the box, they couldn't go to the play action pass and get Breeze to hit him deep because he couldn't throw it for further than 15 yards. He just can't do it anymore. And so that's when their offense fell apart, because they didn't have that counterpunch. And that's what Pete's getting at. We need to be able to counterpunch in a bunch of different ways. And he also mentioned a couple times that they were just slow to freaking adapt. You heard Tyler Lockett say it in his press conference. You heard Russ talk about it a little bit in his end of the year conference.
Yeah, that's the frustrating thing, is the idea of being slow to adapt, because it's not like slow to adapt in terms of making a halftime adjustment. It's being slow to adapt at what you've been seeing the entire second half of the season.
Yeah. That rigidity there doesn't make a lot of sense. And part of that problem is Russ. I mean, I watched Sam Gold's breakdown of the last playoff game here, and the title of it was something like, it really wasn't Russ's fault, or something along those lines, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, it was a little bit his fault. A lot of the things we talked about on this show, where when Sam's breaking it down, you're like, yeah, he's reading everything deep to short, and then running out of time. And then the offensive line just not being good enough, period, in that game. I mean, we got whipped up front. That's a problem. But I do want to talk about Pete's philosophy a bit more, and the way people hate that. Yeah.
I think that leads us into this next clip, because it kind of gets to that idea of running the ball more. And because Pete addressed this, because I think he touched on it there at the fans being concerned about it. And so he was extra careful about how he explained the way in which they wanted to run the football more.
It's really a football thing. It's a scheme thing. And I want to see if we can run the ball more effectively to focus the play of the opponents and see if we can force them to do things like we'd like them to do more, like we have been able to do that in the past. That doesn't mean we're going to run the ball 50 times a game. It means we need to run the ball with direction and focus and style that allows us to dictate the game. And so, I mean, I'm just frankly, I'd like to not play against two deep looks all season long next year. And so we have to be able to get that done. It's not just the running game. It is the style of passes that will help us some, but it is we have to get after it a little bit differently. So as it unfolded in the end of the season, it became really obvious. In the last 4 or 5 games, it became really obvious.
So see, I think we got a clue there that it's not just the run game. He also says it's the style of passes.
The style of passes, and then also just being able to dictate the game, right? And if you're a good running football team, I mean, let's be real. I mean, Kyle Shanahan gets credit for all this creative run stuff, right? And it is creative to a degree, but the run game is infinitely simpler overall than the passing game. I think we can all agree on that.
Sure.
So if you can be dominant running the football, that's very simple, and you dictate the terms of the game and they can't stop you running the football, there's nothing they can do about it schematically. It just takes all of that out of the equation. You just dictate the terms of the game now. And I think that's a huge deal. And it's something that teams have used very effectively for a long time. I want to talk about Pete's philosophy here a little bit because, we're going to go back to Pete ball. It's going to be, 1935 offense. And what is this? We're spend $35 million a year on a quarterback. We're going to run the ball more. I can't believe what I'm hearing out of people. Let me hit you with some facts, some stone cold facts that are irrefutable. If you look during the Russell Wilson era, of every NFC team that made the Super Bowl, the team from the NFC that made the Super Bowl every year since Russ has been in the league until this year, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at where they finished in rushing, each one of those teams. 4th, 1st, 2nd, 5th, 3rd, 2nd. And if the Packers happen to win, 8th.
That would be the lowest.
That'd be the lowest. Not one team that's been less than the top 8 in rushing to be the NFC representative in the Super Bowl. No, once you're in the Super Bowl, then it's anybody's guess, right? It's one game, the football, who knows? But the goal is just to get there and give yourself a shot, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's take, and the other half of Pete's philosophy is play great defense, run the football. Hey, let's take a look at defenses and how the defenses of these NFC champions look like going into the Super Bowl. 3rd, 1st, 6th, 25th, 4th, 19th, 2nd, and 9th if the Packers make it. So from 2012 through 2020, that 8-year stretch, there will have been 2 NFC teams. And if the Bucks get there, they're 6th this year.
Yeah, they're good defense too.
So 6 out of the last 8 years, you needed to be a top 10 defense at least, except for 2 fluky years. What does that tell you, Brandon?
It tells you need to play good defense.
And run the catfish football.
Right.
I know it's not glamorous. I know it's not sexy. I know the analytics don't love it. I know that Russ really wants to throw a lot of touchdowns every single year, and that's going to be better for his career. And he thinks he needs to grow as a passer, right? But here's the stone cold truth. You got to run the freaking football and play good defense. And I just watched it unfold in the NFC playoffs this weekend. All the teams that were able to do that very thing, all advanced.
Well, there's another aspect to it too, because yes, those 2 things are part of Pete Carroll's philosophy, but making explosive plays are also part of Pete Carroll's philosophy.
Explosive plays dictate your scoring opportunities. And so we got to look forward to them. But around that, we got to make sure that we're efficient. And against really good defenses, you have to be efficient. We have to go back, and 3rd down has got to be better. We have been, Paul earlier cited the numbers. We're right in the middle of the league. We need to be better than that. And Russ is good enough to be better than that. Our scheme is good enough. Tyler, DK, we need to mix the throwing game on 3rd down. We need to mix our run game on 3rd down so that we don't, we don't have to leave the field. We need to stay out there. Leave us out there, we're dangerous. And so That's a really specific area of the game. It's running the football more effectively to control the scheme, and it's third down play. If you really want to nail it for, okay, that's where Pete thinks he needs to go in this offseason.
So yeah, third down, another thing that we haven't really talked about yet. And that was one of the things that was really apparent in the Rams game is they got into situations in third down to where they were either behind enough to where going back and yes, I went back and watched this game again too. I didn't want to, but
did you do something wrong? Or was this a self-punishment thing?
I don't know.
Like,
I got very curious kind of about this third down aspect, hearing Pete talk about it, because I was curious of the types of plays that they ran and if play action ended up being a factor, specifically because of the running game. And the Rams, they did not have to respect the run game at all. When it came to third down, when it came to, 2nd and 6 and above, they just would not. For one, the Seahawks didn't run a whole lot of play action because a lot of times they were in position to where play action wouldn't be all that effective anyway, because you're in 2nd and 10 and it's just the linebackers aren't going to bite generally. Now, there are some times where they do, but the Rams, you weren't seeing it from this defense because you would run play action and there would be like one linebacker who would, where it was his responsibility to cover Chris Carson. So that's generally where you get some of the most efficiency out of your quarterback. And without that threat, the Rams didn't have to respect it.
Exactly. And again, running the football actually plays into this third down conversion situation. So one of the ways that you can convert more third downs is to stay on schedule offensively, to be in 3rd and 5 and less, right?
Right.
But you can do that with more certainty, with more repeatability running the football. Like usually you can do that. You can get to 3rd and 5 by running the football pretty easily. That's something that you should be able to do series in and series out, right?
Yeah.
Throwing the football a lot, you end up, it's a little boom or bust. Sure, okay, it worked out this series for, 2 sets of downs, and then all of a sudden it didn't. Now you're in 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12. Or you have 2 or 3 series in a row where it doesn't work and you get behind the chains. That's one area in where the running the football makes a big difference in converting third downs because it gives you more manageable third downs. Secondly, if you're in a manageable third down, say we play just like we did all year, but on every one of those 3rd and 3 and less, every one of those or 80% of those, we were able to hand the ball off and pick them up. What would our third down conversion rate look like there? How many more plays would they have on the field?
Yeah, it'd be more toward the top half of the NFL.
There you go. And Russ talked a lot about finding that little margin, the little bit there, because I don't think he was wrong on this, that they're to go from where they were at the end of the season back to throwing up a ton of points. It's a small margin of things that need to occur. So that's just it. Like, if you run the ball a little bit more, you give yourself more manageable third downs, you stay on schedule. And then when you have those 3rd and shorts, you can cram it down their throat and pick those up. That's going to be one of those small margins. And it's a big deal.
And again, I want to make sure to repeat this because Pete was very clear about this. And I think I just get a sense of some of the articles that are out there, some of the discussions that I'm seeing on social media, that the Seahawks are going to go out there and try and run the ball 50 times. And so when you see all of these articles about Pete's philosophy, clashing against Russell Wilson's skill set, think about this clip.
Let me make sure I don't overdo this thing with the running more thing. We need to run more with focus and direction and count on it a little bit differently than we did. It isn't going to be, like I said, it ain't going to be 50 runs a game. We're not doing that. Well, I don't want to do that. I want to explode with the throwing game but we need to dictate the way we're being played and better and see if we can do that.
Yes. So I think this is nuanced. It's not one way versus another way. And when you say balance, it makes it sound like you're looking for a 50-50 type balance when it's finding the right balance to make the offense work.
So let's say the stat nerds want it to be 80-20. Okay. I don't know what their actual numbers are that they like to see, but let's say it's something ridiculous like that. 80-20, right? And Pete's saying Yeah, I might want it to be more like, I don't know, 65-35. It's not a huge difference, right? It's like, yeah, we're still going to throw the ball a ton. Like, but we just need to run it a little bit more. And not only that, I think the little bit in there that is the most important is he says, I want to be explosive in the passing game. Let's think about that for a second, because Pete really does like seeing the unique traits in his players and trying to put them in the best position to exploit those traits. Let's talk about our quarterback. What is Russell Wilson good at, and what is he not as good at? For example.
Yeah, he's really good at hitting deep balls.
In explosive plays, in that sort of thing.
He's not good at throwing screen passes.
Being Tom Brady and dink and dunking his way all over the field and Joe Montana you to death with precision passing. Is that Russell Wilson's game?
It's not. I wonder if it could be, though.
It can be to a larger degree than it is now.
And that's why I think the offensive coordinator is important, and why I said on the last show that it felt like Russell Wilson was getting to the edge of what he's capable of in Brian Schottenheimer's offense. I think he may need somebody else to coach that into him, that it's okay to move the ball quickly down the field and drop back and hit your back foot and throw to the open guy and scheme and have plays where guys are schemed open to where this is where you look, and 90% of the time the guy's going to be there looking for the ball.
Shoot, let's just take a look at the Chiefs on 4th and 1 this weekend
to close out the game.
Was that play a result of Tyreek Hill being a physical freak and better than the guy across from him, and he just won and Henny found him? Or did it really not much matter who you had running that route really at that point, because they schemed his ass open?
Yeah. And just to point out again, you said Henny in the backfield. That was not Patrick Mahomes throwing to Tyreek Hill.
No, Andy Reid with the big balls this last weekend. That was fun to watch.
Part of that play too is that the way that you looked at the body language, you even heard it talked about with the broadcast crew. They didn't think the ball was going to get snapped. And so you kind of had that body language to where, and then you throw it to the fastest guy on the team running out toward the sideline who just needed 1 yard. An outstanding schemed play.
Yes, absolutely, without question. And let's be clear, Pete's never going to be the guy that's going to out-scheme everybody offensively. It's just not going to happen.
No, but he could hire the guy to do it.
He could. But also, too, part of his style, and this is the part that I kind of end up disagreeing with a little bit, because I think why not use your brains a little bit, right? Like it's good to be able to scheme yourself into easier situations. He's always been of the mindset of, look, we're going to run it simple. He even said it in the press conference. There's a line between what's too much for the players, right? Mm-hmm. Where you install so much. What's the point of putting up all this fancy dancy stuff if they don't play it well, if the players don't play it well? There's a line of simplicity, and he definitely goes towards the simpler side of things, but we're going to do it really, really well. And so even if it's coming, we're going to have superior athletes and we're just going to win. And that's a little bit of a college football.
Well, he talks about it a lot in terms of he wants players to play fast. And he's talked about it in the past is if you have players thinking too much, they're not going to play fast.
And that is very much a defensive mindset. That's a defensive player and a coach. That's how they think. Read and react. Boom. Simple decisions, create chaos, have at it, right? Yeah, we need I think that
works well on defense, but I do, like you're saying, on offense, you can build more of the higher level stuff into it without really it impacting the players as much as maybe it would on defense.
And I think this is where Pete and Russ are a little bit of a crossroads. I did not feel great after listening to each of their end of the year press conferences about them being even close to on the same page of what's going to happen next.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Russ's press conference was alarming to me. It was absolutely alarming. I have never heard him talk about himself so much and things like, and it's just little things. And I know that and people will tell me I'm being ridiculous, possibly, and maybe I am. But little things like they asked him about when the offense struggled. He's like, yeah, I think back to the Rams game, the Giants game, right?
Yeah.
And they were both kind of the same, where in the first quarter, I just didn't have the ball in my hands. I didn't.
Okay.
Wait, what the catfish are you talking about? We didn't. The offense didn't. And the reason why the offense didn't have the ball in its hands very much is because you didn't convert on third down. You didn't keep drives alive. And he acted like it was this, like they were just a victim of something that we don't know. And not only that, but him specifically, I didn't have the ball in my hands. In lots of answers to questions of, yes, when I think about my career and what I want to do, I want to throw a lot of touchdowns. Yeah. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to be the best who ever played. And there was just so much more of that talk. And I want to be involved in the discussions for the offensive coordinator because I have ideas. It was different. It was different.
And so I think you can hear some of that here with Russell Wilson talking about what the Seahawks and his involvement needs to be in terms of going out and looking for a new offensive coordinator and really how it impacts him.
The next 10 years are super critical, right? For everybody involved, the whole organization, and also myself and me as a player, you know, the legacy that I want to be able to create and do and to be able to set the tempo on, you know what I mean? And so I think it's vital. It's critical, you know, super significant that, you know, obviously that I'm a part of that process and coach and I have definitely been talking about John too as well. And, you know, we've had some super long great dialogue about the thought process of who we want, kind of the idea, kind of leader, the thought process, the innovator, all that kind of different stuff that you want. Because you spend every day with that person, right? I mean, you spend all the time you spend, you know, as many hours as me and Schotty spend together. I mean, I'm going to miss the guy, you know, because we spend so much time together, you know, and you work so hard. You know, the next person, whoever that is, it's like, it's really critical that we're on the same page at all times and always talking and vibing and just really, really on the same page. So I think that it's a really critical point to not just the wins, but also the championships that we want. And also, to be honest with you, me personally as a quarterback, you know, it's imperative to my career too as well, right? And I think, you know, how far I want to go as a player. And I think that I think that's something that I'm really dedicated to making sure that whatever we're going to do to have those conversations and communicate all that. To making sure that we find that. So, yeah, I'm, you know, super excited about being in the mix of, you know, the conversation and hopefully we can find the right person and be a part of that.
So, yeah, you could hear in there, Adam, that's especially when you listen to the adjectives that he used and, you know, how it, you know, it's critical. It's, you know, super, really, really important. And he said that over and over again of just how important and critical and used it in use those kind of words. And I, yeah, like you're saying, I can't remember the time that I heard Russell really speaking this way following a season.
Oh, without question. And he would use those terms, critical, important, all that, right? And it was often followed by the words on the same page, that we're on the same page. And then people would ask him, hey, so, you know, when it comes to running the ball more and all that, is that something that you think we should do more? Well, you know, and he danced all over that. No, he does not think that it is linked to running the ball more. He absolutely does not. There's no way in his head that he does right now. I can tell you that. That was as clear as, you know, as it could possibly be.
Because then you're taking it out of his hands.
Exactly. And, you know, you did get a little bit of Russ speak in stuff when he did talk about, well, you know, my goal is to win.
You know what? As much as that was still left in that clip, I cut some of it out because it was that full of it.
And he would talk a little bit about winning Super Bowls, right? That's our goal, is to win Super Bowls. Okay. Yes. Our goal is to win more Super Bowls. Not for you to be the greatest quarterback that's ever been. Like, that's not our number one goal. Not only that, but if you want to be the greatest who's ever done it, win freaking Super Bowls. And how do you win Super Bowls? I just laid out how important it is to be able to run the ball well and play good defense. There hasn't been a quarterback short of the Mahomes recently that pretty much just kind of won it all on his own by just being awesome. And he happened to have one of the most creative play callers in the history of the NFL and lucked into, you know, some of the most talented dudes to suit up, right? And Kelsey and Cheetah and all those weapons, right? Like it's all just happened to go together.
They didn't get there until they got things worked out on defense. And Andy Reid had issues with clock management.
Yeah. Yeah. And sure, you can win. There's a lot of ways to win a Super Bowl. There's no doubt about that. We've seen it over the years. But the most consistent way to get to Super Bowls is to run the ball and play defense. And that's why you see Brady go somewhere that they play good defense and they've got a good running game, and he can just be the straw that stirs the drink at that point, just the kind of the garnish at the end of it. And that's what you see when guys get later on in their career. This is why it's not surprising for me to hear Russell talk like this right now, because he's right at that age that you hear great quarterbacks talk all about what they're doing, right? And then about 4 or 5 years of losing ensues. And then all of a sudden it's just about, go into a situation where they'll protect him, they can run the football and play good defense.
Right.
I'm dead serious. That's how it works.
Yeah. Well, you don't see outside of Tom Brady. And I think we saw the graphic of it after he won again to go to another NFC championship. He has more championship game appearances now than all the teams in the NFL except for 4. And one of them is the Patriots.
Yeah. Which he was largely responsible for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was Steelers,
Cowboys, 49ers, Patriots, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe the Packers were in there. I don't remember.
I don't think it was the Niners. I think it was the Packers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at where Aaron Rodgers is at right now. Can you remember just 2 seasons back when everybody was having the conversation? Is Rodgers washed? Is he done? Look at all these stats. He's in decline.
And now he has an outstanding offensive line in front of him. They don't have really any named dudes for running backs.
No, but they invested draft capital and money in that offensive line.
And they really, other than Devontae Adams, they don't have any huge names there either. So I think protecting a quarterback, it can help both, give Russell time to find the open dudes and also help you run the football.
That's why offensive line, to me, is the number one priority this offseason in terms of personnel that there is. And it's not even close.
Well, let's get into that, because this is kind of how Pete Carroll, he started and closed his press conference, kind of evaluating the different areas. So let's go through it. Let's start off with the rookie class this year and hear what Pete had to say about this year's rookie class.
Yeah, I really liked the group. I thought that they just found a way to be a factor and help us out. Their spirit was really good. They were led well by their teammates. And I say that because their attitude was consistent. They made it through. There was no, freshman dip or anything, in first time around. We played 17 games and these guys hung throughout the whole thing. There's future, there's future to the group from this point. We haven't seen Darrell Taylor yet. Like I mentioned, he practiced with us for the first time, and he's going to be a real bright spot. Stephon Sullivan is going to be a bright spot when we get him back too. Colby Parkinson, you haven't seen much of, but really was impressive to us and is going to be a big factor in the tight end spot as a catcher and a blocker. A tremendous target, really smart kid. Alton did great. Jordan Brooks was the highlight of it all. I thought he had the best season to contribute of all the guys. And he should have, with where we picked him, but he came through beautifully and is going to be a big, big factor. DJ Dallas had a big impression too, how he contributed in the teams and all the support group that he did. And remember, he was carrying the ball for us in the middle of the season. So it was a really good group. And of course, Damian Lewis, the steadiest of all the guys, did the most, had the biggest contribution that he played every game. And this he's a championship kid. He's really smart. He's really tough. It's not too big for him. He's going to have a great career. So this is a really good group, and they'll help more next year. They'll be a bigger factor next year.
So do you think the PR guy that was there with Pete held up a picture of Damian Lewis at the end? It was like, hey, don't forget about the guy who played almost every snap on the offensive line this season.
Good Lord, I hope so. I mean, as much as he talked up Jordan Brooks, who did have a nice rookie year, especially going down the stretch, I'm going to kindly disagree with you, Coach. I think Damian Lewis had the most impactful year.
I think he forgot about him. I think he was thinking of him as a second-year player.
Yeah, I think he did. But he's not wrong in terms of this rookie class really having a positive influence on the roster. And boy, we needed to, hit on one of these drafts like this. It had been a minute. When you're talking about two of your top three picks having meaningful impacts on both the defense and offensive side of the ball. And not only that, but your second round pick wasn't a bust. It's not like he couldn't play. It's just that he couldn't play. He was injured.
Right.
So, I mean, that could still be a factor, right? And the idea that the Freddie Swains and
you know what
Dallas,
you could, and just to interrupt you, they could stand to lose him being a factor when a player like Alton Robinson, who was picked in the 5th round.
That was the next name I was getting to. Yes.
Yeah. Was the second in terms of rookies with sacks. He was number 2.
And I think Robinson's impact obviously was meaningful. And it was a big deal getting this thing turned around in terms of the defense. So, yeah, that draft class, it'll be interesting to see who makes the jump next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because unless you're either a receiver or a quarterback, usually it's that second year that you make the big leap.
Yes, especially with Jordan Brooks. I think, gosh, you can see him making a big leap with being, and so I can understand why Pete would be excited about him being a factor. We're going to talk more about the offense and defense, so I do want to save some of it. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to special teams, which, in terms of units that we've evaluated just in the time doing the show since 2013, this might have been the best year of special teams that we've seen from the Seahawks.
Personnel wise, I'm really excited. Look at our kickers, man. The kickers were phenomenal this year. And I mentioned Jason Meyer. You guys, I didn't talk about him at all because he had that streak going. So we just stayed away from it. But what a great season he had, and he's still in the middle of it. He's just in the middle of this run. So, I mean, Mike's a great player too. So we saw DJ Reed as a returner, and we all felt that the spark was there. And boy, he hit another one. He's going to be another big factor back there and however we use him. So there's just so many freaking positives,
It's true. Dixon was the head of the best unit on the team this year. And, but no, their special teams was awesome this year. It was fun to watch.
Were we going to have fights in the offseason of whether or not Dixon or Myers was the best kicker of the two?
Just Dixon and unit go better together. So I just wanted to make sure to.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to cut Myers and find a Johnson to bring back Norm.
You could be an Oscar Myers wiener like that. Maybe that would be the way to go. Maybe. I don't know. But special teams is a real bright spot. And I guess that's somewhere you don't have to worry about this offseason.
Another place that I don't worry as much, the Seahawks defense.
Personnel wise, we're going to put together this pass rush again and see what happens when Darryl comes back and enters into it. Would like Benson to come back with us and be part of it. Counting on Carlos to be part of it. Elevate our opportunities to get Alton involved more. Alton was really good on the left side. I'd like to give him some more rushes over there. That's the main focus of is to make sure that this pass rush comes back intact, and when we can grow from there. We saw a really good play inside, particularly late in the year from Jay Reed. He had a really good finish to the season. It was really a factor, and that's because he's feeding off the rush from the guys outside, and it's has to work in complement. So we'd like to really work hard at getting that done. See Jordan develop, continue to develop. He's a fine football player, and he's really going to be a big factor. See how we can contribute with him. Get Marquise back, which is a big deal for us. I mean, he's such a big factor to get him back in action. To add with the guys we had, Diggsy and the way Jamal played. Wow, it's an exciting group there. We'll have some work to do on the corner spots because we got some free agency going on there. With Shaquille, we got to keep him. We'd love to keep him with us. And then Quentin's one of the guys, and DJ came through too. So there's a lot of real positive things on the defensive side we're excited about.
This is the weird thing about this defense now is that through the first, 6-7 weeks of the season, and you're looking toward the end of the season and just wondering how they're going to be able to keep it together to where now it's the end of the season and you're looking at Carlos Dunlap, you're looking at Alton Robinson. You say, yes, Darrell Taylor finally got to practice. Jaron Reed came on at the end. You got Poona Ford, who's a restricted free agent, so he's under team control, should be coming back next year. The only guy who's a free agent among that defensive line group that really had any kind of significant playing time was Benson Mayowa. Mm-hmm. So it kind of feels like you're almost set now with the defensive line going into next year.
Yeah, it does feel like you have a group that you can roll with. I definitely think that you should strive to continue to improve it. If they spent more resources and time on the defensive line, I would not be sad about it at all. I mean, I know it sounds like a broken record, but seriously, if they just spent all of their time, resources, whether that's cap money, draft capital, trades, whatever it is, in the trenches, mm-hmm. I would be excited. And most fans hate hearing that because it's not the flashy names. It doesn't sound cool, but that's how you win football games. It really is. And yeah, you do feel good about them. And it's funny because at the beginning of the year, you were looking at that secondary going, holy smokes, Dunbar, Shaq, Jamal Adams, Diggs. We might have, Ugo, we might have one of the best secondaries in the league. And that's the one the unit that you come out of this season having the most questions about regarding free agency and stuff.
It's very weird. And it's not really that in terms of questions. It's really the question of whether or not can they find a guy if Shaquille Griffin goes somewhere else in the offseason? Can they find another guy opposite of him? Because DJ Reed feels like the guy that you can say, okay, he's going to be a starter next year. Trey Flowers is going to continue to be on the team next year. Quentin Dunbar, no, he's probably not going to command a $17 million contract. So is he a guy that you can come back and you hear Pete Carroll talking about wanting him back, which I was surprised that he waited until the end of the discussion to really say that Dunbar was one of the guys that he'd like back. So I don't know how much weight to throw into that because it's very much about how Pete kind of structures his comments on whether or not he actually wants something or he's saying it, to be he doesn't want to throw anybody under the bus.
Yeah, he doesn't want Dunbar. He definitely wants Shaq back, and he definitely wants Chris Carson back.
I do think that he wants him back, but I don't think he wants to say enough to make him seem desperate about wanting Carson back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, without question. But I having listened to Pete for as long as we all have, I don't know about you, Brandon, but I can just listen to him and kind of get a sense of he's as transparent as the day is long to me.
Well, we saved it for the end, which I think it's because it's going to be a big portion of the offseason discussion. Here's Pete with the offense.
We have a lot of firepower. The receivers played great this year and did a marvelous job. Freddie Swain, we didn't mention him earlier, but Freddie Swain had a big impact on this season. He just contributed early on, but to go along with Tyler and DK, and then Phillip gets back in action. David had his best season as well. The running back position is loaded up. Would really like to see if we can develop a third down factor from the running back spot. A guy that can really feature there more so to help us on the third downs. Really fired up about Colby Parkinson helping us at the tight end spot with this. This will be better next year than he was. 2 straight years of major surgery, to overcome. He'll be better. He's such a great worker. Jacob Hollister too, I'm going to talk to Greg again, see what he's doing, but that's a good spot. Brandon Shell, the offensive line it's a good spot for us. I'm hoping that Dwayne will have a great offseason. He goes into the offseason somewhat healthy, and he's not in need of surgery at this point, and that's a big deal for him. So he can have a great offseason. We need to make sure that the inside 3 guys we grow and get better there. Damian is going to be better. Posick had his first chance of starting at center. He'll get better, and then the left guard spot with Mike and Jordan and Fuller and those guys, we need to improve there and all. The areas that I really want to get better at is I want to make sure that we get really efficient in the throwing game. Really efficient. Russ hovered right around 70% all year. I've always said to him, he's going to complete 70% of his passes one of these years. Almost had it this season. But I want that kind of efficiency coming back next year because he's capable of it. And that means we got to tighten things down and make sure that we really can have the flexibility we need for all the games that we play.
So the one thing that I got out of that, Adam, is he definitely doesn't have a left guard in mind because they didn't name anybody. That probably, aside from all of the questions with the offensive coordinator, the offensive line is probably the unit on this team that you look at the most and have the most questions about.
Oh, for sure. And I do think that through Pete's speak here, you can get a sense of what he's thinking. One is, I'm not worried about right guard. Damian Lewis is our guy. He's going to get better. That'll undoubtedly. Well, number one, I liked our tackles. It's the inner three guys that I'm worried about. Right guard, Damian Lewis, feel good about him. Posick, it was his first go at it.
Right.
He might get better. We'll look a little bit here.
And he's a free agent, so that's of the guys coming off their rookie contracts. It's Chris Carson, it's Ethan Posick, and it's Shaquille Griffin. Are your three guys who are significant starters coming off their rookie deals?
I would look to find a replacement for Posick, and then
Justin Britt.
Hey, I don't know. Maybe he's ready to come back after a year to heal up. You never know.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and then left guard was just, we're going to do something different.
Mike, Kyle, you threw out, 3 names?
Yeah. So at least Pete's mindful of it. He said, we have all these weapons, right? And I kind of agree. I mean, DK and Tyler are definitely major league weapons, right? Like those are grade A guys. And then what?
You need that third guy, whether it's tight end.
Because I'm done with David Moore. I'm done with it.
Okay. Well, and he's a guy who is a free agent this offseason, which, he fits that Jermaine Kearse role, I think, of he can be really good. Which is
way less impactful. Yeah. He's way less than impactful than Jermaine would always come up with that clutch catch, right?
And he's had his moments. I thought that David Moore had one of the catches of the year in that end zone, getting his tippy toes down. But in terms of catches in big moments, he didn't have them.
No, in big moments, he's gone. I don't even notice him on the field.
So they do need that other weapon. And yes, it could come at tight end, which he did say they were going to see what Greg was doing, which I'm pretty sure he's going to be in a booth calling games next year.
Yeah, that was Pete saying, he's not coming back.
And when you look at probably the biggest whiffs in free agency moves, that one felt like a Russ move. Like, we're going to do this for Russ. Like, he was all about getting Greg Olsen on the team. Sure. And it ended up being, the most amount of money for probably the least amount of impact.
I guess. Yeah. It wasn't that much money, really, though.
I mean, $7 million it's a pretty good chunk.
Yeah.
You could get the best fullback in the NFL for $7 million a year.
Well, I would love to see us bring in a fullback, but I know nobody else wants that. So that's okay.
Bring in a fullback that actually plays fullback.
Right. And I mean, everybody dogs on the idea, like how old school and stupid it is to have a fullback now. And it's like, how many games did we have Juszczyk tear us up? Or, just in so many different ways. I think they're a Swiss Army knife of awesomeness. I would love more fullback.
If you had a fullback like Juszczyk who can catch, who can block, brings a different dynamic to the offense.
Shoot, Mike Robb was great.
Yeah, it's been a while since Mike Robb, though.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware. I've been missing it.
Well, I know what you mean in terms of needing another weapon. It's going to be the offensive line, and whether or not the offensive coordinator that comes in is not Adam Gase.
Yeah. So cool. Here we are. The offensive coordinator. What do you want to see in our next offensive coordinator? Do you have suggestions?
Man, there have been so many different names thrown out there. Well, let's just go through the names other than Gase, the people that they talked to. They said they talked to Doug Peterson, which that wasn't it was characterized as an informal conversation. So maybe it was like, hey, what are you doing? Are you going to be a head coach somewhere? Let us know if you want to, come home back to the Pacific Northwest type of thing.
Mm-hmm. On a scale of 1 to 10, interest in Doug Peterson.
I definitely put him up toward the top, like a 7 or 8.
Holy crap. Are you serious?
Yeah.
It's like a 2 for me.
Really?
Number 1, he rode the coattails of Frank Reich to a Super Bowl. There's no doubt about it. The second he was gone, that offense cratered. Their franchise quarterback cratered. He totally destroyed a team's culture after 2 years or 3 years after winning a Super Bowl. No, 100% no. No, Doug Peterson.
he has me intrigued just in terms of he has some of that offensive creativity, I think. I don't know that was, I don't think that was all Frank Reich. I don't think that was all Frank Reich.
Which team has had success since they split?
Oh, yeah.
The Colts or the Eagles?
Right. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and where were the Colts coming from in comparison to where the Eagles were when that split occurred?
Okay, this isn't a debate that we need to have because it's not happening. He's going to be a head coach somewhere.
Well, pity that franchise.
So there's Dave Canales, who is the passing game coordinator for the Seahawks.
Well, he couldn't fix cover 2, so...
The thing that I wonder is how much autonomy Brian Schottenheimer had as the Seahawks offensive coordinator. I mean, I guess it wasn't enough that he can call his own fourth down plays, because we found out from Pete that on that 4th and 1 that he got his play call in that he wanted. And that's a big reason why I think it came down to the very last second to be able to snap the ball.
Yep. Yeah, he definitely had lost total confidence in Schotty by that point in the season. The level of autonomy was different at different points during the season. There's no doubt about it. And that brings me... So you kind of just went with names. Like, I was kind of more curious.
I was trying to go through the
see.
names that they've actually had discussions with, because you could go and talk about all kinds of coaches that they could go after. But I mean, what's more realistic? Anthony Lynn was the other name that I don't think that I mentioned, that, he could come to Seattle, and I like Anthony Lynn. And I think maybe he has the temperament, to work with Pete Carroll, to work with Russell Wilson. But still, with Anthony Lynn, it's still maybe about a 7.
Yeah, that's a big solid meh for me. That's a 5 or 6. I mean, I like Anthony Lynn as a leader, and one of the most important traits to me that we find in an offensive coordinator this year is a guy that has the longstanding reputation and the balls, to be just frank about it, to stand up to Pete. Because one of the questions in his presser was, so who holds you accountable, Pete?
Right.
And he was like, well, I used to have those guys.
Yeah.
But I guess now I don't.
Talked about Carl Smith, who isn't there anymore. He talked about he talked about his kids, and one of them is leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, okay, so I think, number 1, that's important to me. Number 2, I want them to be good with offensive linemen. I want them to have a really good track record of that. Number 3, I want them to have some experience in a lot of different systems. Number 4, I want their latest experience to be with a system that has shown to work in today's day and age. And number 5, for that system to kind of go through the run game, because that's what Pete wants. That's my criteria right there.
That's going to be tough.
And number 6 being having experience in a quick passing game.
Okay.
A rhythm passing game.
Who fits all of those categories to you?
Bill Callahan of the Cleveland Browns.
Oh,
Bill Callahan of the Cleveland Browns. Look at what he did with that offensive line this year, and especially in the playoffs when it was decimated by injury, and they still held it together, right? He took a team to a Super Bowl. Granted, it was John Gruden's team, but he took the Raiders to a Super Bowl as a head coach. If you look at his Cleveland Browns profile about the amount of Pro Bowl offensive linemen that have come out of his tutelage, it's quite a bit. He knows he has a lot of experience with the West Coast system, a la Andy Reid, right? In the rhythm passing game and getting the ball out on time that we need Russ to do. He is currently a coach with the Browns, and so is around Stefanski and his offensive system, which, as we've seen in the playoffs, the Browns, it ran through the running game and then had their explosives all built off of that. They knew how to handle a 2-deep look.
Yeah.
They were able to do it.
Well, Pete knows how to handle it too. And I think that was some of the things that he was getting at, is that he needs to be more involved, I guess, in making sure his offensive coordinator knows how to handle that, which
no, he needs to have an offensive coordinator who has the balls to stand up to him, and then also be able to handle it on his own.
Yeah.
He needs to be able to handle it on his own. And that's the other thing. Bill Callahan has been around the league long enough to where he can stand toe to toe with Pete and go right back at him.
Yeah, he hasn't been an offensive coordinator since you met since Gruden. So that is one big question mark. But you know what? It kind of fit in with the same type of guys that I was kind of looking at, because I thought about Anthony Lynn, which kind of led me to, you always got on this guy about his personality on the sidelines, and that's Jim Caldwell.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he's been out of the league a while, but I do think that he has kind of that similar mix of traits.
What does Jim Caldwell do well?
Well, I look back to his
Is
time.
he another one of those guys that has gotten a lot of mileage off of Peyton Manning's coattails?
I don't know. Because when you put in perspective what he got out of the Detroit Lions during his time there, nobody's ever been able to even come close to that kind of success with the Detroit Lions franchise.
Jim Caldwell, the guy who got the Lions to mediocrity.
But he got
Can't
him
wait
to the
to have
playoffs.
that dude as my OC. Mediocrity. No thanks.
It's not too far off from your Callahan pick, but
only Bill Callahan's actually good at one of the things that we really need, which is building an offensive line.
the other guy that came to mind was Mike Shula after his time in Carolina.
He was an abject failure as an offensive coordinator in this league.
Yeah, he got them to a Super Bowl.
No thanks. I'm totally out on Shula.
Okay.
So you either do that, you get a guy that's got some cred and has been around the block, or you go with some young dude.
The thing is that you can go out and get those guys who aren't really exciting, who have been around the league for a long time. Brian Schottenheimer was that kind of guy. We weren't super stoked about him.
No, because the history with Brian Schottenheimer was that he was never around dynamic passing offenses, right?
Yeah.
He was a ground and pound guy, Marty ball. And
which is weird that people are concerned that firing Brian Schottenheimer is going to lead to running the ball more, because
it's going to hurt the passing game.
That it's going to hurt the passing game. Yeah.
Yeah. When his tenure ended almost exactly as the way we talked about what it was going to go at the very beginning of his hire. This ending isn't shocking.
It's like his ending with the Jets. He listened to his coach and did what the coach wanted, and the
passing game was broken.
But not having the kind of freedom but not having the stones to stand up to his coach and say, this is the way that I want to do it.
Yeah.
Well, the other names out there were a couple guys for the Chargers, Shane Steichen and Pep Hamilton.
Pep Hamilton's been bantied about for lots of jobs for lots of years. And what his big claim to fame is he made Andrew Luck look good at Stanford, right? Isn't that it?
Well, that was part of it at Stanford and Andrew Luck, but he's been with a couple NFL teams. He was the head coach of the DC Defenders. And then, he's been a quarterbacks coach going back to 2004 in the NFL when he started with the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he played in the NFL, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't recall him as a player, but
quarterback for Howard University. I thought he made it to the NFL, but it must not have.
Yeah.
I guess he wasn't that good in the XFL. The Defenders were 3-2.
Mediocrity. You like bringing up these mediocre guys.
I brought him up because he's another one that's the name's been thrown around.
We'll see which way they go.
Now, see, what we need to do is not come up with any names, and then that way we can just crush the pick when it comes up and talk about how terrible it is.
I was going to say, I'm quite certain no matter what happens here over the next couple of weeks and whoever they end up choosing, we're all going to be disappointed somehow.
Well, what are the chances that they go out and they find some guy who's that up and coming guy and that actually works out?
I don't know. Is there anybody on the Colts staff that we could pick off?
Yeah, it's time to start tapping into the Frank Reich coaching tree.
Yes, the fruit is now ripened. It's time.
So you got Nick Sirianni, the offensive coordinator.
Yes, that guy. Him, for sure. 100%. Nick Syrian Army. That's who I want.
Sirianni. Syrian Army.
What did I say? Okay.
Okay, he's been the offensive coordinator for the Colts since 2018. He was a wide receivers coach for the Chargers, a quarterbacks coach for the Chargers. He started off as a quality control coach for the Chargers. And then before that, he was with the Chiefs, working his way up, starting at offensive quality control. So he's been in the NFL since 2009. Yes, it's his time. Nick Sirianni, come to Seattle.
I think we did it. I think we figured it out.
Yeah, we came up with a guy that nobody can poo-poo because you really don't know anything about him other than he got a pretty good year out of Phillip Rivers.
Well, he was the wide receivers coach with the Chargers. They've had some damn good receivers over the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So involved in that. Got Jacoby Brissett for half a season to look like a legit NFL quarterback.
There you go.
And then got the corpse of Phillip Rivers to play some competitive football and actually get to the playoffs. And he's been under the guidance of the brilliant Frank Reich.
And you should be able to get him because he would be the sole play caller probably. So it would be a promotion coming to Seattle rather than being in Indy. Because that's the other thing. You can't just take another team's offensive coordinator.
No.
You know,
then you're basically a Detroit Lions fan where you decide that you can just take somebody else's GM when you want them.
Right. All right, Adam. Well, we've blown through our midpoint of the show. So what do you say we just roll right into welcoming some new members of the flock?
You know, I'm never going to turn you down when you ask me if we should welcome new members of the flock. I every time I'm going to say yes.
Well, I'm ready. I hate to disappoint you. We have 0 new members of the flock this week.
Mind games. What is this?
But
you're basically Pete Carroll at an end of a year press conference.
But we did get a raise from Joshua Dawes, who moved up to the 12-12 level. And Joshua comes in, says, as the season approached, I was looking to see if there was a Seahawkers chapter here in Italy and lamenting that the military Seahawkers does not include spouses, and I stumbled on the podcast. I quickly listened to the whole off-season shows. I then retroactively addressed my freeloader status. Then, after a bit, I got in the Discord, and now it's time to go to 12-12. The pod and the flock have been awesome. I get so tired of listening to unbiased, quote-unquote experts give me the unbridled joy and excruciating pain that actual fans experience. You guys do that so well across all the platforms and shows, and I love being a part of it. Thanks from Joshua, a.k.a. Schultz and Giggles in the Discord.
That's awesome. Hey, appreciate it, Joshua. It's been awesome having you in the Discord and now in the Ring of Honor. And it's always cool when you hear like, yeah, I'm all the way over here in Italy.
Yeah.
And listening to your show. That's crazy to me to think that it always is, that there's a human being on another continent somewhere listening to my dumbass. Like that's amazing to me.
Well, and that's one of the most fun parts about doing the 12-12 and above shout outs at the end of the show, because you get to hear where everybody's from. And man, we're up over 100. And so I think this is probably the show that we're going to recognize all of you folks once again. Probably a nice way to kind of kick off this end of season type episode. Although, you know, I think you and I need to come back and do our own kind of recap of this season. Now that we have Pete kind of his comments, just kind of a year in review of sorts from
a post-mortem, so to speak.
Yeah. So we might have to do that coming up next.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I can do it pretty quick for you. Defense sucked, then it was good. Offense was awesome, then it sucked. And then we lost to the Rams.
There we go.
Done.
Well, maybe we don't need to do it because you wrapped it up.
Yeah, put a bow on that crap.
We got some reviews in this past week. One from Hawks fan 907 says, I love this podcast. Adam's hilarious, rants/takes, and Brandon's football smart. And Adam, there were for sure a few tears shed in this playoff loss. Keep it up, gents. Catfish the Rams and go Hawks.
Go Hawks, man. I appreciate somebody coming in and understanding that, and sharing that loss also hurt their feelings. That makes me feel better that I wasn't alone.
I think this next review came in from someone who the loss didn't hurt their feelings because the username is BruinRider78. And so this makes me think it's an LA-based football fan. And also by the review. It says, Adam and Brandon are so entertaining. It's like listening to two drunk fans in the bar go insane when their team loses. I loved it when one of them called Bronco coverage delusional, as they cry about how the Seahawks had the talent to win the Super Bowl. You've got to respect that, kind of. But a 5-star review. So, that was a nice, positive review for somebody who was probably looking for some LA Rams schadenfreude.
Yeah, that must have been what it was. I mean, one of the, 6 of them out there, the Rams fans.
Yeah.
I think they may have picked up one this year or something. I don't know. But no, that's an awesome review, to be honest. Because, yeah, man, we are homers. Of course. It's a Seahawks podcast. Yeah. And I don't think either of us said that this was like a roster that was a lock to win the Super Bowl. It's just they had the talent to get there.
I don't know how that would be some kind of strange argument when you look at the talent that was there in the first half of the season to the talent that was there on the defense in the second half of the season. You put those two things together and you have a team that could go to the Super Bowl. So that's not that weird.
Yeah. And the idea that we're as delusional as the Bronco fans, come on, man. we have a Hall of Fame quarterback. They have Drew Lock.
Yeah.
But with similar expectations. Come on, man.
I think I'm going to have some fun listening to Rams podcasts this week.
You're going to have fun with that? You're going to enjoy that?
Yeah, they get to cry about how they lost to the Packers.
You mean like Aaron Donald cried?
Just like Aaron Donald.
They didn't have a shot in that game.
Oh, no.
And the Packers just did what they were supposed to. I mean, they did the things.
It's not that hard.
No, it wasn't that hard. That's why we were so mad at the end of it. At the end of that last game. Yeah, man.
All right, moving on to Pick'em standings. Will J, who is Christian in Norway, got all 4 picks correct, got the picks in first. So not only leading the standings at 190 points, but gets the win in week 19, the divisional round of the playoffs. So congrats to Christian, and that's just another prize I'm going to have to ship to Norway this year.
So he's basically just winning it in the fourth quarter now.
Essentially, yeah. He's 2 picks ahead now of Collier Greens and Jonathan Burkholder. So with 3 games left, he's 2 picks ahead.
All right. Well, we'll see if he keeps pedal to the metal, or if he decides to play a bunch of soft zone and go prevent here and make it close at the end.
Well, I can
do something silly like pick the Bucks in Green Bay.
Well, that would be kind of silly to pick both of them since
pick the Bucks in Green Bay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the 2 favorites, like if you're Christian, you pick the Packers and you pick the Chiefs, right?
Well, depending on what happens with Mahomes
with his concussion.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get on to do better and better at life.
All right, man. My do better this week. I kind of hinted at it a little bit on the last show that I was going to address this topic. And this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion. And I don't care. But my do better this week is for all the players that have come out, and a lot of Seahawks players, as their seasons end and all that, and talk about all the struggles that they had with COVID. What a struggle COVID-19 has been, and all the sacrifices that they've made, and how hard it was on them the entire time. It is one of the most tone-deaf things I have ever heard come out of a professional athlete's life. Guess what, guys? We've all been dealing with COVID. You know what the big difference is? Is that we all didn't have guaranteed huge salaries. Like even a middle-tier NFL player makes somewhere like $200,000. This year would have been really easy with about $200,000 coming in for sure. Not only that, have all of the team facilities, all of the team doctors, all of the things that are at your disposal, right, to keep yourself healthy. You're basically catered to the entire time. And then they come out, they're like, well, now that we go back to our regular lives, I heard Tyler say this, what are we going to do when we don't get tested every day? What are we going to do? I don't know what we're going to do. The same catfishing thing everyone else has been doing this entire time, guys. All right? You do your best, you keep safe, and you do your thing. Yeah. Okay? Well, we had to spend time away from our families. Guess what? I have to spend time away from my family when I go out on jobs. It's part of the freaking job. So to all these guys that talked about how this was some monumental thing. It was so difficult for them to get through with their millions of dollars, their personal healthcare staff, when however many million Americans don't even have healthcare. Give me a catfish break. Do better.
Yeah, I don't know how controversial that is. This has been a struggle for people, and yeah, maybe they don't realize that. That doesn't seem that hard to believe.
Just to act like they had it so rough through lockdown and all that. Are you kidding me? Half these dudes live in freaking mansions. So even if you were to lock down in your house, you had a whole mansion to roam around in. Imagine having a studio.
I suppose there's probably players on the team that, the rookie level guys that it was definitely more of a struggle for.
Sure. But you're still getting, what's the league minimum?
Oh, yeah.
Even on the rookie scale.
You're employed. You got tested every week. It's probably
how many people just lost their jobs?
Right.
How many people didn't even have healthcare to get tested?
Well, and you know what? I don't think it was probably the players lower down on the pay scale that I would have seen any complaining from anyway.
Yeah, it's been the dudes at the top, and then the whole organization after this game. This drove me crazy too. This about set my hair on fire. Just after that disappointing loss and that joke show of an offense against a craptastic team with a half a quarterback, they go out and lose and basically end the season. Mm-hmm. And then in the press conference, have the audacity to stand there and be like, "Hey, we kicked ass against COVID. Well, what a win that is." Well, no, I mean, I'm really proud of our guys that way. What did you catfish do?
I think it's an accomplishment worth highlighting, but you let other people highlight it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my do better this week. This is for the Texans fans out there. I don't know if you saw this, Adam, but Texans fans were organizing a march. Not for, any big political thing, not for any kind of human rights thing. They were putting together a march to show their support for keeping Deshaun Watson on their football team. First of all,
okay.
I think that they don't have anything to worry about, that you don't trade franchise quarterbacks. We've talked about this over and over again. I
disagree. I think he's going to be gone.
You think he's going to be gone? Okay.
I do.
Well, then maybe you would have been out there too. But, I think that we should save marches for things that are, maybe a little more meaningful. But second, with this march for Deshaun Watson, the crowd that showed up was completely lame. And I think it was going to be lame regardless of how many people you had before Watson came out and said, you know what, you probably shouldn't do that. I know Watson came out and said, well, it's because COVID concerns that, you really shouldn't be gathering for this type of thing. No, the bigger concern of Watson was that it's going to look dumb, and it did anyway. So Texans fans, take a page from the Seahawks fans playbook. Doing this online through Twitter is how you make things happen. You organize online. You come up with a catchy slogan, you get people on board with your pound sign movement, and you'll look a lot more organized as a fan base, and you'll all look a lot smarter. Because, Adam, what is the right number of people that you can get your point across with an in-person march for wanting to keep your quarterback?
I think it would have to be upwards of 10,000 people in front of the practice facility, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
A small number, it makes it look like you don't care. A big number like 10,000, it makes you look like a group of people that should have a lot more to care about than who your quarterback of your franchise is. 10,000 people getting together, you're going to get crushed for being, what are these people doing? They think it's that important to gather in masses of tens of thousands when there's all these other things in the world going on for your quarterback, for your franchise.
It's my quarterback, man.
So for doing a march in front of the stadium, it was not the way to go. Texans fans, do better.
So save protests for like big things, maybe? Like don't cheapen the protest?
Don't cheapen the protest. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Online pound sign movement. This is where this needs to be kept into perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you do that, you can get it picked up by national media, and it's the media that's really going to have the overall influence on ownership in the GM, right?
Right.
That public pressure coming from that way. Exactly. No, I think you're 100% right there. Yeah.
Yeah. 10,000 people. That would be dumb.
I think they have every right to be worried, though. I think Deshaun's gone, man.
You think that they would actually find a deal? Because this is the problem that you always run into with a guy like Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of compensation makes it worth it? And can any team put together that level of compensation to make it worth it?
I think that's definitely out there. I think that trade deal is out there. I really do. I mean, everybody's got future picks. There's a lot of teams that have a decent quarterback or one that's young with potential or, things of that nature. Right. I mean, think about like the New York Jets. So you got Sam Darnold and a bunch of picks and you send it their way, or you make a deal with the Niners, right? Jimmy G plus 2 firsts, right? So, you still solve your quarterback issue if you're the Texans and you start building for the future. The reason why I think this is going to happen more than anything is the reason that Deshaun wants out is because they have no future because of Bill O'Brien. And then the reason why the Texans would let him out is because they have no future because of Bill O'Brien. They're giving her all the draft picks. They need to restock the closet, right?
Well, they already fired Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, I know. So you're trying to recover from that now.
Why? The thing that I don't understand is why Deshaun signed a contract long-term with the Texans in the first place.
I'm not saying he's made all the best decisions here.
It was just a year ago when Bill O'Brien was his head coach and had already made those trades that didn't, that took away those future picks.
Maybe he believed in what Bill O'Brien was doing and then felt betrayed at the end of it.
No, come on now.
I don't know. But he's saying things in the media that you don't come back from.
Okay. So what do you think about with the concerns about Russ toward the end of the season? You don't make that trade for Deshaun, do you?
God, no.
I'm just saying, yeah. That question has been thrown out. So don't get mad at me about it. Like I came up with it.
I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the people who threw out that question. It has now officially been thrown out. We're done with that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you have to get a top 10 pick this year.
Yeah, because if you get Deshaun, right, like idea being that your team's going to be a lot better. So that pick that you traded away, that first rounder, it's probably going to be a late round first.
Broncos?
Yeah, you do it in a heartbeat if you're the Broncos. And they got rid of John Elway as GM, so maybe they know how to identify quarterbacks now.
Maybe that's it. On to better at life.
My better at life than Skip Bayless. Not that I'm totally on board with this dude, but I just find the story to be kind of hilarious. My better at life is for, I'm gonna butcher this poor gentleman's name. Aditya Singh, 36 years old. You know what he was doing the last 3 months, Brandon?
Singing?
No, he was living in O'Hare Airport in Chicago. Just living there.
What?
Yeah. I don't, they didn't really say how he got there, but somehow he got there and decided that he was too afraid of COVID to fly anymore. He's originally from California.
Uh-huh.
So he just kind of like went to this secured area and like set up shop for like 3 months.
No way.
Yeah. Didn't get found. And then eventually he found like a badge lying around. Right.
Uh-huh.
And so he picked that up and he would just walk around with that. People thought he was an employee for the longest time. He's getting food from, other passengers and things like that. Freaking hilarious. He just camped out in O'Hare for 3 months. I don't know exactly how he got that done. It's actually, to me, a hilarious story. The judge, not so much. They don't think it's quite as funny. She says, being in a secured part of the airport under a fake ID badge, allegedly, based upon the need for airports to be absolutely secure so that people feel safe to travel, I do find those alleged actions do make him a danger to the community.
What?
No,
he was
not
there for 3 months. What kind of danger is that?
Yeah, he was basically making a blanket fort in O'Hare, living there for 3 months. So to Mr. Singh, better at life than Skip Bayless.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm concerned about COVID, though, is an airport the place that I camp out at? Probably not.
I'm not saying he's making the best decisions overall in life, with the best logic.
Yeah.
I just found the idea that he was able to just camp out in an airport for 3 months and nobody noticed.
That is wild.
Just hilarious. Makes you wonder about Chicago airport security as a whole.
And that's probably more the thing in terms of the judge. She was just mad that that could happen.
So throw the book at him?
Don't take it out on this dude.
Yeah, exactly. I think you need to throw the book at somebody else.
Yeah. Huh.
That'd be like being mad that the Seahawks offense struggled down the stretch in firing the special teams coordinator.
Somebody's fault.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my better at life this week is for the Los Angeles Chargers and the New York Jets for doing the right thing and going out and hiring defensive head coaches. Because, Adam, it's the right thing to do. Am I singling out those teams specifically because they got their head coaches from the Rams and the 49ers? And I'm hoping that they have a hard time finding new defensive coordinators and that they hire guys that are completely the wrong fit and their defenses go into a tailspin, collapse. You know, all their good players asked to be traded or refuse to sign new contracts, therefore making Russell Wilson's ability to become the 2021 NFL MVP that much easier as we walk our way through the division and on our way to an easy division title. Maybe. I haven't spent that much time thinking about it. I just know that the LA Chargers and the New York Jets are better at life than Skip Bayless.
I find it interesting that the Rams D coordinator was hired when he had been a defensive coordinator for 33 seconds.
He has an awesome first name for one. And for two,
yeah, what's his name again?
Brandon.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so he's got a generic first name. You're right.
An awesome generic first name.
Oh, okay. All right.
And he coached with Sean McVay.
Yeah.
McVay's still got the touch.
The kiss the ring of McVay. Saleh in New York. How much success do you think he finds there?
I give it a 4% chance of working.
Over under amount of seasons he lasts in New York. I'll put the over under at 2.5.
I would take the under. I think it's 2.
I think it's 2 as well. I think he could be the next Mike Singletary.
Yeah.
Like just rah guy, but
yeah, there's a lot of those rah guys.
And how is he supposed to fix Sam Darnold, by the way?
Oh, they're going to draft a quarterback.
How is he going to coach the quarterback they draft, by the way?
He brought the dude, the passing game coordinator from the Niners with him.
Oh, right. Young LaFleur.
Yeah. The other LaFleur.
Yeah, I don't know that secondary LaFleur is going to be the one. It's like getting the secondary Gruden.
Yeah.
Or secondary Schottenheimer.
That's
just not as good
the
as
next
the
one
first.
I was going to try and go with.
Yeah.
Well, we're on the same wavelength then.
Yeah.
All right. What do you say we close this off giving a big thank you to all of our $12 supporters and above? What do you say?
Oh, I'd say sure. No, I'd say yes. Bring it on.
Keith Ketover, a.k.a. Flocktimus Prime, University of Cybertron, Little Flockers, roll out.
DCH from Sparks, Nevada, the University of Montana Grizzlies.
Annalisa Mickelson, a.k.a. Mrs. Doug Baldwin, New York, undergrad, University of North Carolina, Greensboro, graduate school, Brooklyn College.
Jameson Holman from Murray, Utah, representing Mississippi State University. Hail State and go Hawks.
Gary Blum from Chappaqua, New York, and the University of Pennsylvania, your 2016 Pick'em League champion.
Ron Pepper, UNLV Runnin' Rebels, San Francisco, California.
Hong Kong! Hong Kong! Hong Kong!
Ella Esparza, Woodway, Texas, Yale University, and Sam Houston State, Eat 'em Up Cats.
Lisa in Seattle.
Kevin Stengham, Keene, Texas.
Vincent Parker, Emily Carr, University of Art Design, RN Collective.
Samuel Gelber, NoHo, California.
David Van Cleve, Camas, Washington, home of the Papermakers.
Leo Jose, Luleå, Sweden, from Luleå Eskimos and Renkommaren Front.
Paul from San Diego.
Aaron Fisher, a.k.a. Lock It and Put It in Your Pocket, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hey Seahawkers, my name is Garen Taylor. I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world, North Idaho. #OnTheRose. Go Hawks.
Continuing with our supporters at $12 and above, let's start with our executive producers, Dustin Mock, Brian Shaw, and Young Choi. Then we pick it up at the top of the list, starting with Christina in Manassas, Virginia, Ross in Eureka, California, Craig in Camas, Sven in Berlin, Deutschland, James in Linwood, Roe in Federal Way, Hector in Issaquah, Becca in Manhattan Beach, California, Jared in Missoula, Montana, Tim in Austin, Kathy in Eureka, California, Joshua in Seven Oaks, England, Brandon in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Christian in Bergen, Norway, Jonathan in Ridgefield, Jeremy in Puerto Rico, Keegan in Colorado Springs, Paul in Portland, James in Beaux Arts, Jeffrey in Kansas City, Missouri, Kari in Rochester, Brian in Berlin, Connecticut, Eric in Seattle, Tracy in Kaneohe, Hawaii, Connie in Gothenburg, Sweden, Taylor in South Cle Elum, Marvin in Riverdale, Utah, Dean in the Greater Hawkdom, JC in Horsford, England, Chris in Spokane, Kevin in Sammamish, Jake in Seattle, John in Norfolk, Nebraska, Crystal in Oldsmar, Florida, John C. in the Greater Hawkdom, John W. in New York, Shoko in New York, Scott in Bakersfield, California, Patrick in Sacramento, Bryson in Eltopia, Greg in Seattle, Jeremy in Federal Way, Ben in Wrexham, Wales, Ryan in Chatham, England, Joshua in Candor, New York, Ivy in Renton, Kenneth in Hutto, Texas, Mark in Bexley Heath, England, Mario in Seattle, Seth in Tacoma, Cora in Ditters, Deutschland, Anders in Viola, Denmark, Warren in Dundee, Oregon, Chris in Austin, Jose in Chicago, Jack in Somersham, England, Amy in Squim, Marcus in Potts Point, Australia, Preston in Phoenix, Richard in Killeen, Texas, Nathan in Bozeman, Montana, Marlon in the Greater Hawkdom, John H. in Honolulu, Chad in Lexington Park, Maryland, Joseph in Vancouver, Benjamin in the Greater Hawkdom, Bridget in Redmond, Norma in the Greater Hawkdom, Jay in Monroe, Corey in Vancouver, Taylor in Spokane, Jesse in Sultan, Ryan in Salt Lake City, Kyle in the Greater Hawkdom, Darren in Stafford, Virginia, JC in University Place, Chris in Billings, Montana, Tyler in Kalama, DJ in Menifee, California, Kevin in Great Glen, England, Terrence in Seattle, Jalen in Minneapolis, Kansas, Daniel in Post Falls, Idaho, Pedro in Woodstock, Georgia, Tucker in Camas, Eugene in Henderson, Nevada, Ian in Seattle, Joshua in Italy, Jamie in Oswestry, England, Mike in the Greater Hawkdom, Eric in Kalispell, Montana, Tanner in Kalispell, Montana, and Kayla in Vancouver. A huge thanks to all of our $12 supporters and above making it through another season. And we really thank and appreciate all the work that you've put in helping us with the show. I think, maybe next week we go more toward mailbag, because I already have about 3 or 4 comments lined up that came in from this past week that I couldn't get to in this show. And so maybe we do that next week.
Yeah, that actually sounds great. Love getting you guys in, and involved in the show. It's always better. And especially all you little flockers in the Ring of Honor. That was an awesome list, man. You guys kick ass. Inspires me to be a little more upbeat through the offseason this year.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. No, forever no, absolutely not. No on Adam Gaze.